All right, so anchoring in the brain. Anchoring and the brain. I want you to understand a basic premise of what your brain does. Your brain is a prediction machine, okay? It either wonders what's happened next, what you should do next, what you'll want to happen next, or what will happen to you if it happens, okay? It's like the four basic predictions, all right? And what we want to do is guide somebody, all right, to more like, what do I want to happen? Okay, we want them to want this next step to occur. Okay, we want them to want to buy. Does that make sense? We want them to want to agree with us. Okay, that's the prediction. And your brain is constantly trying to predict. Okay, it's like, even as we sit here and talk, you've heard structures of sentences a billion times in your life. You always try to fill in the blank even before I've said whatever I'm going to say. Your prediction always is happening. If I cross the street, what's going to happen? How close am I to this? All the little minute mini predictions you make every single day. Even to the point of, driving a car, turn right, turn left. Should I use the turn signal? Yeah, probably. What happens if I don't? Well, my prediction goes, I could probably get away with it, but then again, maybe I shouldn't. All right?
And
always predicting.
Yeah. And you're helping, an anchor just nudges them toward the direction you want them to go, the prediction you want them to make, like Tom said. So.
Yeah, and predictions are almost always emotion-based, okay? Predictions basically go on the 4 Fs. Fight, flight, food.
Fornicate.
We'll say fornicate, okay? So.
Or freeze.
Yeah, or freeze, all right? So the predictions are always based upon either getting one of those things or avoiding one of those things.
Right.
All right, so, your predictions about, running down a set of stairs, and if your prediction is that if you run downstairs, you're going to fall, falling is much more likely to occur. If your prediction is running downstairs is totally safe, falling is probably not going to occur. Your prediction starts leading what happens next. Does that make sense?
How careful you are, how much you hesitate, how much fear you have. So all of that plays in to possibly not performing well, like you said.
Yeah, I
on
mean,
the stairs.
think about it. The squirrel in the middle of the road, probably the world's worst predictive creature on the planet, because it seems to always guess where the tire is, okay? They base completely out of fear. If a squirrel thought I'd make it across the road, I'd be fine, they just go across.
Yeah.
You find a lot less dead squirrels. All right, so.
Well, when it saw a car and it thought, let's keep going and finish up, that would be a better decision.
All right. The predictions, like I said, decisions themselves are all emotionally based. Anybody here who thinks they're logical is full of crap. We had the greatest girl in the seminar. She kept telling us how logical she was, but her logic was always based about being so careful that she didn't screw up.
Yeah.
So her logic was fear-based, okay? And when we told her that, she just sat there staring at us like, wait, no, I'm Spock. No, you're kind of not, all right? So I want you to understand that all these decisions you make are emotion-based. Now, the brain does a really interesting thing. Okay, you got 2 parts of your brain. You've got the creative logical, it's actually physically located on the exterior part of your brain. It's all the wrinkly bits. Okay, so one thing in your life, the one thing you have that you want to be wrinkly.
Yes.
Okay, it's the outside of your brain. All right, and the reactive emotional, actually centered in the old primal brain. They call it like the reptilian brain, primal brain, but it's basically need food, need girl, need shiny car, okay? We
Need shiny car?
get food and girl with shiny car. No, I mean, all right. So when we're anchoring, okay, we don't really want people to think logically, okay? We want to avoid that. We want them to think reactive, emotional, not critical, logical, all right? The brain is fascinating in the way that it's put together. The connections between the connections in the center part of the brain are like kind of elevator shafts. They're very quick, all right? They're survival. They're like, see tiger run. It's not see tiger, analyze tiger,
That's why
think
it's
about
called
tiger's day.
reactive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's called reactive.
Yeah.
It reacts very, very quickly. So, the connections have to be very limited. That's like loud noise jump. Okay?
Straight down, react.
Yeah, straight reactive. All right. It makes, if you, this is why, how many of you people have tried to talk someone into something for hours on end by giving them massive quantities of.
You're trying to appeal to the logical part of the brain, the creative adaptive. And the problem with that is when you're having that problem and they're not making the decision and they're having every objection known in the world, they've already had the reactive part and it's been run probably.
Yeah.
And then you go up to the creative part, but they're viewing everything through that run and all the things that they're coming up with are logical reasons not to do it. Right?
Okay.
So what we want is to have them have the reaction and have it be one of the positive movement, not away from, movement based, and then make all the logical reasons up why they should do this.
Exactly. Okay. It's really interesting. Information doesn't trigger the emotional reactive response. You can give somebody as much information as you want, and you're not going to get that emotional decision you need. All right. But if you get that emotional decision made, they will create a logical reason to do exactly what you want them to do.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Are you guys following that? This is why it's so important. All right. The goal is we make decisions emotionally and logically back them up. This is how, when Kim goes shopping with me, she just tells the sales guy to shut up.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because Tom makes the decision, then starts telling the sales guy all the reasons he should do it. And he's just talking himself into it. And the sales guy always tries to butt in on his decision instead of what should they be doing? Anchoring. They don't know what they're doing.
That's how I ended up with this TV.
The TV was a great deal.
I know.
And
But he kept trying to sell it to me even after I
no,
went,
that was another TV.
Okay, but anyway.
Still, yeah, this TV was an amazing deal. But no, yeah, and then they start talking. I just actually do look at him, go, just stop. He's already made up his mind to buy it. Just let him finish talking himself into it. Unless I don't want him to, then I fire a negative anchor and I say, "Are you really going to use it?" And he goes, "No."
I hate it when she does that
and then we
shit.
leave.
Got all kinds of stuff around here. It's like, we got a globe made of.
That's mine.
I know, but you never use it.
I like it.
Okay, the pool table. Got to use that. But it's fun to have.
Okay. So
All right.
anyway.
So does that make sense? Do you understand now a little bit about how the brain works and what your goal is? We're going to be generating emotions by how we talk to people, and the better the emotion, the better the outcome, except that it doesn't have to be as good as you think it does. All right, it's just a slightly good emotion. Okay, so there it is, the brain model and anchoring and how that works.